Before the world learned to measure time, there were places shaped only by wind, water, and patience. Places untouched by ambition, uninterrupted by noise. This is not a story of conquest or discovery. It is a quiet passage through land that does not ask to be owned, only acknowledged. As the image unfolds, so does the journey. Each brushstroke marks a moment. Each shadow carries memory. There is no destination here. Only movement, only listening, and perhaps a reminder of how it once felt to belong to the world instead of standing apart from it. The journey was never meant to be remembered, not because it lacked meaning, but because no one was expected to survive it long enough to tell the tale. For generations, the maps ended at the cliffs. Beyond them, the world dissolved into blank parchment and unanswered questions. Sailors spoke of fog that erased direction, of winds that carried voices not meant for human ears. Scholars call it myth, leaders call it irrelevant, and eventually people stopped asking. But I did not stop listening. When the cities began to crumble, not from war alone, but from exhaustion, I felt it. The world had grown loud with ambition and hollow with purpose. Towers rose higher, yet people felt smaller beneath them. We named progress as salvation, but it never saved us from ourselves. So I left. I crossed lands stripped bare by industry and oceans, thick with memory. I followed old currents, the kind no machine could chart. The stars guided me when instruments failed, and silence became my closest companion. There were nights when I questioned whether the journey was madness. Nights when the sea felt endless and indifferent. Nights when I wondered if turning back would be kinder than pressing forward. But something pulled me onward. Not hope, not destiny. A quiet certainty that the world still held places untouched by our mistakes. When I reached the cliffs, the air changed. It tasted older, cleaner, as if the land itself was holding its breath. I stood beneath stone arches carved not by tools but by time. Moss clung to the rock like memory refusing to fade. The wind whispered through the grass, carrying no words, only presence. Ahead of me lay the shore, a wide stretch of pale sand meeting a calm, endless sea. No ships, no ruins, no scars, just water, sky, and the gentle rhythm of waves returning to where they belonged. I took my first steps forward, and for the first time in years, the ground did not feel hostile beneath my feet. Footprints formed behind me, dark against the sand, proof that I existed, that I had arrived. Yet even as I watched them appear, I knew they would not last. The tide would erase them soon enough, and strangely that brought comfort. I realized then that the world was not asking to be claimed, only respected. I sat at the edge of the shore, letting the wind pull at my cloak, and allowed memory to surface. Not the sharp kind that wounds, but the quiet kind that teaches. I remembered the cities I left behind. Streets packed with hurried lives. Windows glowing late into the night. People chasing futures they had no time to inhabit once they arrived. We built faster than we learned, consumed more than we understood. We named control as wisdom and efficiency as virtue. But standing there, watching the sea breathe, I understood how little the world required from us. No conquest, no monuments, no proof of dominance, only patience. The cliffs behind me did not loom as guardians or threats. They stood as witnesses. They had seen civilizations rise and fall like tides, each believing itself eternal. None were. The sea shimmered under a pale sky, stretching farther than vision allowed. Somewhere beyond the horizon, storms lived and slept. Somewhere beyond that, lands unknown waited without urgency. Time moved differently here. Not slower, deeper. Each moment felt complete on its own, not rushing toward the next. I listened to the wind comb through the grass, to the distant call of unseen birds, to the steady pulse of waves striking shore and retreating again. And in that rhythm, I felt something loosen inside me. The weight I had carried, the burden of fixing, saving, proving, began to dissolve. I had believed the journey required answers, but perhaps it required surrender. I thought of those who would never stand where I stood, those still trapped in the noise of collapsing systems and endless debates. I wondered if this place would ever be found again, or if it was meant to remain hidden until the world learned humility. Maybe discovery was not the point. Maybe preservation was. As the light shifted, the cliffs cast long shadows across the shore. The grass bent and shimmered, alive with motion yet rooted in stillness. I traced patterns in the sand, knowing they would vanish soon. Nothing here demanded permanence, and that was its greatest strength. I stood once more and walked closer to the water. Cold waves lapped at my feet, sharp but honest. The sea did not welcome me. It acknowledged me. A balance, not an embrace. I understood then that the world was not broken beyond repair. It was wounded, yes, scarred, tired, but not lost. Not while places like this still existed. Not while silence still had room to speak. As I turned back toward the cliffs, I did not feel the need to mark the path or claim the land. I carried no tools, no banners, no declarations, only memory, only responsibility. If I returned, I would not return as a conqueror or savior. I would return as a witness. One who had seen a world that did not beg to be reshaped, only protected. And if I never returned at all, that would be enough too. The sea continued its endless conversation with the shore, unconcerned with my presence or absence. The wind carried my breath away, folding it into the larger world. I took one last look at the horizon, and for the first time I did not feel small before it. I felt aligned, because the world does not need us to master it. It needs us to remember how to belong. I remained there longer than I expected, not because time demanded it, but because the place asked nothing of me at all. In the world I left behind, stillness was treated as failure. If you were not producing, improving, or advancing, you were considered lost. Silence made people uncomfortable. It forced them to confront questions they were not prepared to answer. Here, silence was not empty, it was full. I watched clouds drift without urgency, reshaping themselves moment by moment. No form lasted long enough to be owned. The sky did not cling to what it had been. It allowed change without resistance. I wondered when humanity had forgotten how to do the same. I followed the shoreline for a while, my footsteps pacing the tide. Sometimes the water reached for me, erasing my path before it could fully form. Other times it retreated, leaving smooth, glassy sand behind, untouched, unmarked, patient. It felt like a lesson repeated gently until it was understood. Nothing here fought to be remembered, and yet I knew I would never forget it. As the day moved forward, the light softened. Colors shifted in ways no city sky could replicate. Blues deepened. Greens grew richer. Shadows stretched and merged, blurring the boundaries between stone, grass, and earth. The cliffs behind me seemed alive in their stillness. Their surfaces were scarred and weathered, yet unbroken. Every fracture told a story of endurance rather than damage. They had not resisted time. They had cooperated with it. I placed my hand against the rock and felt the cold seep into my skin. It was grounding, honest, a reminder that the world does not exist to comfort us, but to anchor us. I thought of the machines we built to insulate ourselves from discomfort. Walls against weather, screens against boredom, noise against thought. In protecting ourselves from the world, we had also distanced ourselves from it. Here there was no barrier, only presence. As evening approached, the wind changed direction. It carried the scent of salt and stone, and something older still, a trace of untouched land. I wondered how many cycles of life had passed through this place unnoticed. How many species had lived and faded without record? Perhaps that was freedom. To exist without being documented, to matter without being measured. I gathered a small fire from driftwood and watched the flames dance low and quiet. Even fire behaved differently here, restrained, respectful, aware of its limits. Sparks lifted briefly into the air before vanishing, leaving no trace behind. I did not feel alone, and yet I was completely by myself. That realization did not bring fear. It brought clarity. In solitude, I could finally hear the thoughts that had been drowned out for years. Not the anxious ones, not the rehearsed narratives, but the deeper voice beneath them all. The one that had always known when something was wrong. The one that had urged me to leave. I understood then that the journey was never about escape. It was about remembering what alignment felt like. About rediscovering a rhythm that existed long before schedules and systems dictated our days. The world had not lost its balance. We had simply stepped out of it. As darkness settled, stars emerged slowly, one by one, as if the sky were revealing secrets only to those patient enough to wait. There were more stars than I had ever seen. Uninterrupted by artificial light, the heavens reclaimed their depth. I lay back against the sand and let the universe stretch above me. For the first time, the vastness did not intimidate me. It comforted me. It reminded me that I was not meant to carry everything alone. That significance does not come from control, but from connection. From knowing your place within something larger, not above it. Sleep came gently, and when I woke, dawn painted the horizon in pale gold and soft rose. The sea mirrored the sky, blurring the line between above and below. For a moment, it felt like standing between worlds. I packed what little I had brought. There was nothing to collect, nothing to take with me but experience. Anything more would have felt like theft. Before leaving the shore, I turned back one last time, not to say goodbye, but to acknowledge the exchange. The place had given me something intangible yet permanent. Perspective. I walked toward the cliffs, following a narrow path that revealed itself only as I moved. It was not marked. It did not announce itself. It required attention, not certainty. Each step felt deliberate, not rushed, not delayed, just present. As I ascended, I thought about what waited beyond this place. The noise would return. the demands, the expectations. The world would still be fractured and uncertain, but I would not meet it the same way. I would move slower, listen longer, build less, but care more. The journey back would be difficult, not because of distance, but because of temptation. It is easier to forget silence once noise surrounds you again. Easier to trade awareness for convenience. But I carried proof now, not in my hands, but in my posture, my breath, my way of seeing. When I reached the top, the shore disappeared from view, hidden once more by stone and time. The world behind the cliffs reclaimed its secrecy, and that was how it was meant to be. Some places are not destinations. They are reminders. Reminders that the world is not waiting to be fixed by us. It is waiting to be understood. And perhaps if we learn to listen again, truly listen, the world will teach us how to stay. When the image is complete, the journey does not end. It simply becomes quieter. What you have witnessed is not a place, but a moment suspended between memory and possibility. A reminder that the world still holds spaces where time slows and meaning returns without force. We often believe we must shape the world to give our lives direction. But sometimes it is the world that reshapes us. Gently, patiently, without demand, as the final light settles and the sound fades, carry this stillness with you, not as escape, but as balance, because the world does not need us to dominate it. It needs us to remember how to walk within it.